all for coming. And we're going to start with just this 1-minute little presentation that we had done about our business, and then I'll jump in. So please let us know if you can't hear it. Brenda, are we in the presentation now? I lost my screen.
Sorry, everybody should have seen the video. Judy, did you see the video? Heather?
No, I didn't see the video and I didn't hear anything.
Oh,
I could hear it and see it, but I don't know if that's because I'm.
anyone else? Maybe if we can ask someone else who is not a presenter. Did you hear the video? Can someone else open their microphone and answer?
Jill Chambers, we were able to see it and hear it.
Okay, Caroline had her hand up. So Carolyn, can you unmute yourself and let us know what your question is?
I can't hear.
You couldn't hear it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we had a little video for 1 minute. It was just about our company, and we thought we'd try and put it on here, but it didn't work out that well, so we'll do better next time. But we're jumping in the presentation now. Can everybody hear me properly? Yeah, okay. And we'll skip over to it. So we're just going to talk really quickly about our company. So Proactive Seniors, we're an advisory service, and we're located in Calgary, Kelowna, and Edmonton. And we're made up of a team of advisors who help our clients to know what services and programs are available to help them as they age, or if they're the caregiver, to help to make sure that they have the resources for their role. You can move forward, Brenda. So the services that we offer are planning, so Proactive Seniors Planning. So this is generally for seniors who want to stay in their home as they age. We help to make sure that they have a very comprehensive plan that identifies what kind of help they need, who provides that help, when it's needed, and that they know what resources are available to them. We provide housing support. So for seniors that do choose to move into a retirement residence or a care facility or a shared home or co-housing, we help them find the best fit for them. We provide support for dementia when families are living with dementia and they're the caregiver. We help to make sure that they have the resources and the support that they need with dementia coaching. We provide family support, which is helping to get people to their appointments or to get those little tasks done that just fall through the cracks sometimes. And we both have occupational and physical therapists on the team that can provide support in a retirement residence setting or in the home. That's just a really quick summary on the services that we provide. And Cheryl's got her hand up. So Cheryl, just unmute and let me know if you're having any trouble with anything. Can you hear us? I don't know, Brenda, if you or Heather, if you want. Oh, hello, Cheryl, can you hear us?
I was not muted, but I haven't heard her speak yet. So
Oh.
I'm not.
Okay, well, maybe.
And Caroline has her hand up again too. So Carolyn, everything okay? You want to unmute yourself and let us know what's...
Yes, this is Caroline. Everything is fine.
Perfect. Okay, we'll carry on to the next slide then. So today's topic is how very important it is to build your support team while you're planning for your aging or while you're helping someone as a caregiver through their aging. So that's the topic for today, is building your support team. It's going to be a conversation back and forth between Brenda Josephs, who's our advisor in Kelowna, and myself. Certainly there'll be lots of opportunity to ask questions. If we're moving along and you have a question, you can hit that little hand and we'll notice that you're wanting to say something, or you can hold your questions to the end, and we've got lots of time to have all sorts of opportunities to answer questions at the end. We are recording this presentation, so if you want to relook at it or share it with someone, you're most welcome to do so afterwards. So we'll move forward into the next slide. And Brenda's going to take it away.
Thank you, Kathy. So today we're going to talk about the reality of aging. It really does take a village. We're going to talk about what to do if you don't have a spouse, children, or family on your support team. We're going to talk about why you need a support team, putting together your team, how to draft your game plan. Those of you that have been with us since the beginning have heard us talking a little bit about football. Yes, there's going to be football talk today. Keeping your team members informed, as Kathy's going to give us some communication methods that might work for you and your team. We're going to give you some examples of collaboration in action, talk a little bit about our process at Proactive Seniors, and then, as Kathy said, we are going to leave lots of time for your questions and comments, although you're welcome to throw any comments into the chat box, which for those of you that may be not familiar with Teams as much, it's that little bubble at the top of your screen or potentially at the bottom of your screen. If you click on that, you can type in your comments or questions. And I know Heather's going to be navigating that a little bit for us. So thank you so much, Heather. That's teamwork makes the dream work, right? So we don't age alone. In the immortal words of John Donne, no man is an island, and really nor should we be. Humans are social creatures, and the circle of life brings us from birth, where we are dependent on our parents to look after us, all the way to the end of life, at which point we're once again dependent on others to help us along. We're going to be talking a little bit today about Stephanie Erickson's book, and just to let you know, we will be giving you a PDF with all of the resources that we've talked about today. But Stephanie Erickson is a clinical social worker and a family caregiving expert from Montreal. And she shares her knowledge and her years of experience in this book, Plan for Aging Well. And although she does consider several other issues dealing with aging, today we're particularly going to focus on the concept that she really champions, which is the collaborative team approach to successful aging. And I can tell you that Proactive Seniors really champions that very same idea, which is why we're talking to you about it today. So the reality, acting as though we are aging alone isn't working. When things go awry, everyone in our circle is affected. We find when we talk to our clients and other older adults, they often tell us that they're concerned about becoming a burden on their families. But planning for aging and building your team is far from a burden. It really is a gift to your loved ones. Reality, after 65, older adults will need varying degrees of assistance and support. Perhaps you've had an illness, an injury, or because we age, as we age, we become less mobile, flexible, and strong. The traditional ideas of families in the past bear very little resemblance to our social networks today. Maybe the best person for your team is your child, or maybe you don't have children. Kathy's going to talk a little bit about that. Stephanie also talks about the medical model of reactivity, which does not consider older adults in a holistic way, as care is often brought on by crisis. And I know Kathy has a comment about that. Go ahead, Kathy.
Oops. Oh, can you move back? There we go.
Yep.
You know what? The medical model of reactivity is something I really talk about a lot, about how reactive our healthcare system is. And we do have a good healthcare system. When we are injured or ill, it is very good at taking care of us and helping us better. But it is a reactive system, and it is not focused on preventing illness as much as it should. And as we age, you know, I see this all the time. The older we get, we don't recover as well as we did when we were younger. If you've had an injury or an illness, we just don't necessarily bounce back as well. And in the healthcare system, the treatments and the interventions and the surgeries are all very dramatic and aggressive. And the older we get, I see that seniors don't do as well with those kind of treatments and their recoveries aren't as good. So it's so much better to put the time and the effort and the resources into staying well and preventing the illness or preventing the injury or preventing the fall, as opposed to trying to recover afterwards. And our system is very reactive, and what seniors and families and the system needs to do is be more proactive and more preventative focused. So I really agree with Stephanie on her assessment of our healthcare system being too reactive, and it doesn't suit well for seniors. The other thing I just want to add from Brenda was saying is so much planning ahead is a gift to your family, but it's really a gift to yourself as well. If you really want to take care of your health and wellness and be in charge of that and leading that charge, then building a team and being proactive is a gift to yourself. And I think it's important that we give ourselves gifts like that. So I just wanted to add that piece.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a great point. Thanks, Kathy.
Yeah. Okay, so yes, what if you don't have family? Because you're listening and you're saying, oh, well, here you are saying, you know, bring in your family, talk to your family, include your family. It's amazing to find out that really a lot of seniors don't have children or spouses that can help them. So the statistics show that the current generation of older adults has significantly fewer children than it used to. And that's not a surprise. We're having smaller families, and a lot of people aren't having children at all. And in fact, I was really surprised with this statistic that 20% of women that are over 65 right now do not have any children. And so those are very small families, and a lot of times people either don't marry, or perhaps their spouse passes away, or they get divorced. So the other thing that leads to less family support is that those who do have families are spread all over the world. And you probably know this or have this in your family situation. We know we have a lot of clients where we're dealing with helping the children be part of the picture, and they're living overseas, or they're living in another part of the country, or even just out of town. And so it's very common for families to be spread apart. So that leads to less families available to be part of that team or to provide care. And it's important that we adjust for that. The other thing that's really quite interesting is that over time, people have become less involved in groups. So not as many people belong to a church or an organization or a group or a club as they once did. It used to be quite a big part of people's lives, but it's less so now. Our social circles shrink as we get older. People move or they pass away, and so we have less people that we know. And the other one is that there's proportionately a whole lot less young people and a lot more seniors. And so there's not as many people to support the seniors. We have less of a demographic that are supporting our older population than we did in the past. So that all equals to having less what we call social capital, less people in our network to support us. So less family members, less people in our network to support us means more people are aging alone. And so it's very important to understand how you can build a team around you when you don't necessarily have those two components, which is friends and family being as big as it might have been in the past.
Yeah, Kathy, I certainly see a lot of the family live far away out here in Kelowna, where I am. A lot of people retire out here, and they don't want to leave here to go back to Regina or Edmonton or Calgary, but their family all lives in those cities. So yeah, that's definitely a factor here in Kelowna for sure.
Yeah, and it's a big factor. And even though you have family, if they're not nearby, it's
Yeah.
a different kind of help that they're providing. So,
For sure.
so building your social capital. So we talked a lot about this in our August webinar, and you can find that on our website if you want to go back and review that. We won't cover it in detail right now because we've got a lot of other stuff to talk about, but the concept there was building social connections. And what I like to call it is social capital. And social capital is defined as the network of relationships that enable us to function in society. And so we need a network of relationships for all of us to be able to be successful with our health and our wellness and our aging. So it's really important to build your social capital. And we encourage you to do it sooner rather than later. Don't say, I'll do that next year. I'll put some more focus on that another time. It takes time to build relationships when they're not your family members and you're trying to build your social network. So start now. It's a step-by-step approach. It takes gradual incremental increases over time to build deep relationships where you can be interdependent on each other, supporting each other. So start now and put some time into building those social relationships. Nurture the existing relationships you have. You may know a lot of people on sort of a superficial level. We'll try and build deeper relationships with some of those people, offer to be part of their support network, and hopefully they'll be part of your support network as well. So put the time into nurturing some of your existing relationships and or try and make some new relationships. Volunteer, join a group, join a club. One that I think is most important in terms of building your team is getting to know your neighbors. It's less and less common that we know our neighbors as it used to be in the past. And I think it's an amazing resource that we have close by. So to get to know your neighbors, maybe you're new in a community or maybe your neighbors are new, pop over with a loaf of banana bread, offer to check their mail when they're out of town, pet sit, offer to help and in the capacity that you're able to, and then that will be reciprocated when you're needing support. So it's really important to try and deepen and build those relationships so you have a bigger pool of people to build your team from. And the last point is consider moving to a community where those relationships are already established. So just as an example, my mother, who is 79, just last week moved from her townhouse condo to a plus 55 seniors building. And it's not a retirement residence. She's still living entirely independently, but it's a building where everybody is a senior and they have a weekly movie night and they have once a month catered dinner, and there's a bridge club and a crib club. So there's a little bit of stuff going on for her to join in on. And what really gave me a sense of comfort and relief is she's in a community where there's people that she can build her network with. We looked at condos, we looked at other places, and I thought she's not going to meet anybody just moving into a regular style condo. So I'm really pleased she moved into a location where these relationships will be easier to form and she can have a bigger team because we're a really small family and I need more people on our team than just me. So I'm really happy about that. Okay, on to Brenda.
Great stuff. So why you need a support team? Well, just like a team can't rely on one star player to carry the whole lot, no one person can do it all. Spousal caregivers are often the key person, but they can get fatigued, overwhelmed, and they need support for their own aging journey. Adult children, we talked about this. Are they local? Are they available? Realistically, one person can't shoulder these tasks alone. Family members are working full-time, caring for children, volunteering. Everybody has busy lives. So building this holistic support team will give you and your loved ones peace of mind, quality of life, and even a foundation for stronger relationships between you. So putting together your team, this is the football metaphor we alluded to earlier. So Stephanie Erickson is the one that came up with this. And again, her book is Plan for Aging Well. She uses the metaphor of a football team, and as a huge Stampeders fan, go Stamps go, I really resonated with me, this particular metaphor. So what could your team look like? So in her metaphor, she uses the older adult as the head coach, the senior. You are the head coach. You decide who's on your team and what the plays are going to be. Generally, your spouse is your primary caregiver, or whoever your primary caregiver is, that's your offensive coordinator, potentially also your quarterback in many situations as well. Your family doctor is your defensive coordinator. They assist with maintaining your physical well-being. Again, only one facet of aging. They assist with that and referring specialists if needed. Your special teams coach is there to fill in the gaps. Perhaps your adult daughter or your son provides transportation or companionship if your spouse, who is your primary caregiver, wants to play golf or have a poker game with his friends, that kind of thing. So the overarching idea here, obviously, is first of all, that it does take a team. It's not just one person. Your quarterback sees the big picture, calls the plays as guided by the head coach, but the entire team understands the game plan, and executes the play to the best of their ability. So the key to that is, of course, communication and adjusting the play as circumstances and your players change. So Kathy, who should be on everyone's team?
I love that analogy. And it's so funny because I have a family that I'm working with, and we identified exactly who the quarterback is last time we met. And it was before we started talking about doing this presentation. And the family said, "Oh, I really see mom as being the quarterback." And I was like, "She is the quarterback." So I'll talk about that example in a moment. But who should be on your team? You know, it's made up of various different people in your network, and it can be different and it can change over time. So obviously, if you've got family around, if they're able to be on your team, very key to keep them involved. Make sure, even if they're far away, they understand what's going on, what your goals and wishes are, what you're hoping to achieve as you're aging, and include your family as much as you can. And that sometimes is your son or daughter, but it also can be your grandchildren or your niece and nephew. So, or your siblings. So family can be any of those combinations. Friends and neighbors, we talked about that a few slides ago, making sure you're building that social network and building up your social capital by having friends and neighbors that you can help and they can help you, because they can be a really key component to your team. And they don't cost anything. They're local, they're close by, and you can really help each other, which I think is an amazing perspective on that. It's important to know that there are loads of volunteer services. Just yesterday, I was working with a family in High River, which is a small community outside of Calgary. And there's a couple volunteer services that I just found out there where they'll pick you up and drive you into the city for a doctor's appointment. You don't have to pay anything for that. They have a whole list of volunteers that are happy to do that. And another organization that had volunteers that are able to just do odd jobs. So this particular family needed help getting their garden in. They physically weren't able to do it anymore. And so there's a volunteer organization where you can just call in and say, "Hey, I need help getting my garden in." There's lots of those services. And in Calgary in particular, Edmonton and Kelowna would be the same. People who will do a call once a week, will do a visit once a week, will go and get your groceries for you and put them away in the cupboards. So make sure that you start to look at what's available out there in terms of support from a volunteer's perspective. It's inexpensive or doesn't cost any money at all. And there's really generally a lot of people out there looking to provide that kind of support. Your medical team, obviously, as Brenda was just talking about, it's really important that your medical team is part of your team. And I know in our healthcare system, the specialists don't necessarily talk to each other. And so that's why it's important that with your communication, which we'll talk about next, and as part of your team management, that someone's holding those pieces together. And so with your different types of medical GP or specialists, if you're having a medication change, take it upon yourself or have someone on your team take it upon themselves to update the other medical specialist. Take notes of how you're feeling if you've got symptoms and share that with your doctor and show them stuff that you're keeping track of. And you want to help them to be part of your team by helping give them the information that they need to do so well. They want to be part of your team. It's hard for them to be that way with everybody they're taking care of. So you want to put them in a situation where it's more successful by facilitating your medical team to be part of your team and be connected with everything that's going on as best as you can. Public and private services. So, you know, the obvious ones are home care, for example. You can access home care both publicly and privately. Foot care, both publicly and privately. Doctors, both publicly and privately. There's lots of public services, day programs, treatment programs, lots of stuff in the public sector that you can add as being part of your team and being part of who are providing some of the support that your family, your friends, your neighbors, your volunteers aren't able to do. And similarly in the private sector, there's somebody that does every kind of service. It's just a matter of finding out what you need and identifying who the best provider is for those different kinds of supports. The supports that your family and friends and neighbors aren't able to do. So filling those gaps with somebody who has those skill sets. So the example about this family I wanted to share that was putting the daughter forward as the quarterback. I'll try and keep it short, but this lady, she was in the hospital, she had a fall, broke her shoulder. part of that reactive system of healthcare. They send her home that day with meds. She was disoriented. She fell a second time, broke her leg, back into the hospital. So when she did eventually come home, she had needed a lot of support. So her family was amazing. They rallied together, all hands on deck, and helped supported everybody. But they brought in all the pieces of the team that they need. So before she got home, they reached out to us to make sure that we could get home care set up for them, which was really smart because public home care didn't get out there for 10 days. So she would have had no home care for 10 days. She probably would have ended back in the hospital again. We got a medical response system out, had modifications made to her house. All these pieces came together to build this team. And then seeing her 2 months after her return home, it was amazing because the team was still in place, but their roles had changed and what they were helping with had changed. And so it is evolving, but it was just such a wonderful example of everybody coming together. And the senior was very much the coach, and she said what she wanted and what she didn't want. And then the daughter was the quarterback, and she helped to make sure everybody had their tasks that they had to take care of, and then everybody had their piece. So it was really quite a successful example of teamwork. Okay, moving forward.
Perfect.
Oh, and now to Brenda.
So where do you start? You start with your values. A key component in your planning should be the consideration and the sharing of your values. So what makes you, you, essentially? Successful aging is found when you live and you make choices that align with your values. Make sure your support team is aware of those values. And in the event that they have to make a decision on your behalf, they can feel confident they've respected your wishes. Don't assume. We often assume that our family knows us and what we expect. Just to give you an example, my niece, Melissa, is an RN in the ER in Abbotsford. And I was talking to her about this particular issue, and she was saying to me that oftentimes people will come in, families will be in crisis, obviously. Their loved one is unable to speak for themselves, and families had no idea what their loved one would have wanted. And that happens more often than it doesn't happen. And the end result of that is that you may end up getting the kind of care that you did not want, or you may end up not getting the care that you did want. So, that's always the risk for sure, because people do assume that their families know them. Many families have never talked about, and they're totally unprepared to deal with life and death decisions. And the number one reason for this is that families just don't want to talk about aging, serious illness, or dying because they have difficulty accepting it. I mean, really, they're in denial, right? We all are, to a certain extent. If there's often a lack of agreement between what the older adult or the senior wants and the family wants. So again, don't assume your loved ones know you, and be aware of and share what your values are. And then start the conversation. Prevent guessing and stressing by talking about aging and adjusting the game plan as the circumstances change. Exactly that example that Kathy gave couldn't be more perfect, really. And also, when you're getting ready to have these conversations, you might want to have a look at our webinar from December 2020, because we talked about strategies to deal with difficult conversations. Some people, as I said, just really have a hard time talking about things like this. We can never, ever plan for every possible outcome. It's just not possible. But we can talk about what ifs. What if, for example, Dad has macular degeneration? What if he lost his vision and could no longer drive? What would we do? What if Mom is the caregiver for Dad and she had a medical emergency and had to be hospitalized? As a family, as a support team, what would we do? Hold a family meeting to discuss the goals and wishes and plan care and support. What might be needed for help, meals, driving, caregiving, medication support. That quarterback daughter, I'm sure, had all of those things on her list. Then figure out who is able and available to help and where the gaps are. Make sure your team members have the right balance to carry on for a long time. Kathy often says, aging is a marathon, not a sprint, and she's right. It's a long-term commitment. Hopefully it's very long-term for all of us. Fill the gaps with other team members as needed. Sometimes it might be time to add a new team member For example, one of your family members moves out of town or someone's ill. All kinds of different scenarios that you can't, again, anticipate all of them, but you can think about what might happen if this was the case. Communication is essential. Kathy.
Okay, so just some sort of ideas on how to keep that communication flow going between these various different team members. So with that family, and actually I've recommended this to a bunch of families in the last month, there's a caregiving app that we found. And so if you've got a team that's made up of a bunch of sort of disparate people and they all need to get kept up to date on what's happening, you know, oh, I took grandma to the bank today. She got her, you know, personal or her power of attorney taken care of, these kind of things. So keeping everybody in the loop. So there's a caregiving app that we're just trying out, and it seems to be working. And there's a number of them on the market, so you can look for them. But it's just a way to keep the whole family connected with what's happening and who's doing what. So that's an option. And we're certainly excited to hear how people are finding this app once they've used it for a little while. Or as simple as a notebook, going the other direction. Sorry, I have an itchy nose. Simple as a notebook. So if you are there and you're the caregiver or you're the senior, taking notes, what's happening, who's doing what, how are things responding, and use that as like a journal to communicate back and forth between people that are on the team. And so if you know, one daughter's coming in one day and someone else is coming in the next, you can leave notes in a notebook and just update each other on what's going on. Super simple method to keep people communicating. Partner up. This was a suggestion I made with this particular family I was sharing with you before. They have such a big group of family members that are all involved. And I was worried that some of them were going to get burnt out, that they were going to be taking on so much that they weren't able to do the things in their life that they needed to do. So the suggestion was that they could team up with another family member and both be doing that same role and spell each other off. Because it is a marathon and not a sprint, you want to make sure that you've got the backup or you've got someone else who can step in if you need to step away for a little bit. So as a caregiver, make sure you're taking care of your own balance and that you're contingency planning for your role as well. A shared calendar is another really good strategy. It can be electronic online through Google, or it can just be a paper calendar, but a shared calendar where you're keeping notes. This is, you know, mom's got an appointment today, or, you know, my husband or my spouse has to get this location. So a calendar is a good strategy for staying communicating. We have quite a number of families that we work with that have one loved one with dementia. And we always recommend those really big desk calendars where they can write, today is the dentist, today is, you know, going for groceries, that kind of stuff. It really helps people who have memory issues to be able to look and see, oh, okay, these other days are crossed off. I know that this is Thursday, and look at, I've got on there that I'm going to the doctor today. So it's easy to help people stay communicating and part of the team, including the person that's the coach or the person in the middle, the senior, by understanding what's happening and when. And then the last one is just a group email. So another simple solution, put everybody on a little distribution group. And when an update goes out to one, the update goes out to everybody. So just some really simple ideas on how to keep the communication flowing with your support team.
Great.
Okay, so making it work. So Brenda and I just had a few examples, and some of the other team members might jump on with some other examples of just how this team strategy has worked in a few different scenarios. So we have a particular lady who is just a real go-getter. She does have kids, but they live overseas, and so she's essentially on her own here in Calgary. And she was really proactive in thinking, oh my gosh, you know what's going to happen when I start to need some help? And I think what prompted her to look into this at this level was she needed some surgery. And she's like, I don't actually have any family in town. Who am I going to have help get some groceries when I'm recovering from my surgery? So that's how it all started. But it was a very proactive way to start planning out who her team is now in the future. And what I thought was really interesting with the process is the people she included on her team. She lived in a condo building, and the concierge is actually one of her team members. The concierge knows her well. She comes and goes, and she reached out to the concierge and said, hey, listen, I'm a senior, I'm living in this building. this is my schedule. You know when I come and go. If something seems off, will you check in on me? And so that was a great way to sort of include that person in as part of the team. Just, if I'm not coming down when I normally would you check? So that was, I thought, fascinating and really smart, including her friends and her neighbors. So letting her neighbor know that she has a pet, and if she, wasn't home or had to go into the hospital, that someone would reach out to them and ask them to take care of the pet and the plants, and including her friends in her support. So she was going in for surgery and she said, can I make sure that you're going to pick me up? And when you need my help, I'll help you in the same way. And I have a different friend who's going to help me get groceries. So she built this really wonderful team, including, I neglected to say this on the previous slide, her financial planner and her legal, getting all her paperwork done for her power of attorney and her personal directive. So all of these people are part of her team. And it was really a successful example of building a team when she didn't have family here to do so. So wanted to share that one with you. I think Brenda's got another example to share.
Yeah, it's in a similar idea to what you just talked about, Kathy. There's actually a volunteer organization down in the States, and it's in a fair number of communities, quite a few. And it's a volunteer fueled organization which provides a virtual village to support women in particular living alone. So members will share their contact information, they will sign up and they will say, oh, I'm willing to drive someone, or I'm willing to, and then one person sort of coordinates that and prints out or shares all this contact information with everybody, so that if any member finds themselves in a situation where they need support exactly in the kind of scenarios that you just laid out, then they would be able to call upon one of these people, part of the membership, to help them out. And that harkens back to your comments earlier about building social capital. This is a little more organized in the way they approach things, because they also go so far as to have a vetted list of people that will provide services like plumbers, electricians, home repair, that sort of thing. I thought that was a great idea, and I'm surprised. I mean, perhaps Calgary does have something like that, but if they don't, they certainly should, because it's a great idea, especially in view of some of the challenges that we've looked at earlier, for sure.
Well, in fact, there is a neighborhood in Calgary, Brenda, who has gone down that road of kind of a virtual village. And I'd love to see that in every neighborhood. And it sort of takes me towards another concept that we're really passionate about and we're helping a particular client with right now. And that's the idea of being interdependent with other people. And this is a lady who's interested in sharing her home. And so she is wanting to stay in her home and wants to be able to have other people live with her, and they're all going to have different things that they like and are able to do. So we're just working it out right now, but it looks like, one person prefers to do the housekeeping but doesn't really like cooking. The other person might like cooking, and maybe the third person, likes to work in the garden. And so that concept of being interdependent, it's kind of just a new creative way of building a team. And this is going to be a team within her own home of people that have different needs and different ability to support. And so, the virtual village idea, sharing your space with people and helping each other, or reaching out and building your team from a network of people outside of your home and where you live. There's so many ways you can do this. I think it just is a matter of figuring out what works best for your particular situation and who you have that you can reach out to, and then starting to build and put those pieces together, kind of like Lego. So
yeah, exactly. And you really hit the nail on the head when you mentioned the word creative. We have to get creative now with our situation in the world the way it is, and to take control of our own future, for sure.
and feel okay about asking for help,
Yes. Yeah.
and also giving help.
Yeah.
So thanks for moving that slide forward. So this is the next slide, is about just a little bit about our approach. So we do a lot of planning with families, because sometimes it's overwhelming to think, well, if I have to make this team and I need support with different types of, gaps I might have or services I might have, how do I know what I need? How do I know who does it? How do I get this team built together? And this is very much what we do with our proactive planning. So I just wanted to walk everybody through it quite quickly. And it reiterates a lot of what we've talked about. We start with the goals and wishes, which is influenced by values. What do you want? What do you want to see your life like in 3, 5, 10 years? What are you hoping for? Because that's what we want to build the plan around, is those goals and wishes based on what's important to you. And we want everybody on your team to know those goals and wishes. So they all are working towards the same goal. Everybody's on the same page. The next thing that we do is we help to identify what those challenges and barriers are towards aging well, staying healthy, meeting your goals and wishes. Everybody's going to have different challenges and behavior and barriers. Is it a functional challenge? You've got limitations with your physical health. Is it cognitive health? Is it that your house isn't suited for aging, it needs modifications? Is it a medical issue that needs to be addressed? So we want to identify all of those things that are going to potentially be a red flag or a barrier to achieving your goals and wishes. And then we want to create a plan for each of those. And the plan will identify who is the right person to fill that role. Can it be a family member? Are they comfortable in that role? Are they willing to perform that role, or are they not? Or are they not available? Can it be a neighbor? Can it be a friend? Can it be a volunteer? Can it be a medical person? Can it be private service, a lawyer? Who is it that's available? And so we help people to build their team by figuring out what the issue is, what's the plan to address that issue, and who's best to be that person to fill it. And then that person takes on that task. They're the special teams coach for that particular task. And so that's how we go about it with our proactive seniors planning. And it's very effective and just helps people to get the right people on the field. How's that for now?
Well done.
People on the field and heading in the right direction, right? They're going for the right goalpost.
Going for the win. That's right. That's right.
I didn't play a lot of sports, but I was always worried that when I was on his team that I'd get confused and go the wrong direction. That's kind of something I always worried about. Oh my God, I'm gonna run the wrong way. Okay, so Brenda's gonna take this next slide.
Yeah. So just to wrap up, it is really impossible to anticipate every situation or to predict what's going to happen in the future, but a great team can adapt. And when the circumstances change, they can change and potentially, like we've talked about, add more people, whatever is needed to get the desired results. Physical, and then also a note about allowing yourself or understanding that being dependent or interdependent is actually a very good thing, is that your physical, emotional, and mental health is closely tied to the connections you have with other people. And these relationships are so important in terms of your social capital, but also in terms of your general well-being. One last plug for our education page on our website. I don't know, Heather, if you can quickly pop the link into the chat for us, but on our proactiveseniors.ca, if you scroll down on the education page, you can see we have all kinds of resources, a lengthy list on a variety of topics, a lot of which we've alluded to today. In fact, our very first webinar was staying connected from a distance. Sadly, we're still at a bit of a distance from the ones we love, but have a look at that because there's some great resources in there as well. Any last comments from you, Kathy?
No, other than, just as we talk here, I just think about a lot of the people that we work with, and they really are trying to go it alone. And then thankfully they've reached out recognizing they can't go it alone and that they need some support. And I just want to reiterate, it's okay. You don't have to do this by yourself. There's no prize for aging totally by yourself and not ever having any help. So just, it's okay to reach out for help and build that team and get people to be involved. I find that people want to help. They want to be involved. They want to be part of your life, and it's okay to do so. You don't have to be an island.
Yeah, very much so. Very much
Yeah.
so.
So we would love to have any questions, or anybody else from the team, if you have any examples you want to share, any stories that you think might highlight or just be fun. Yeah, just let us know if you've got anything you want to ask.
Well, I'll start by saying I think it might have been a crisis that created my world where you need to have others. And I think both of you did an excellent job. And as a physiotherapist and as a teacher, I have two careers actually. Education is important, and listening and being there to help others gives you that mental stability. My biggest challenge, and I would like someone to help me, is I decided to make a move in September due to sort of physical crisis needs. Got a new doctor, a new lawyer, a new accountant, everything was new, district, everything. But I did move back to where I was born. I was living in Edmonton. Yay, Eskimos. My husband was actually a professional football player. But I must say, going back to the memories as a child has encouraged me to explore. Unfortunately, due to my medical crises, the pandemic, I am forced to be isolated. I still am only allowed in my community. I just started driving in August, and I still have to wear a mask. But that's life. And I'm wondering, I think what helped me get through and get to know people a bit was just that I needed help. And like you said, just knowing, and that's tough because my children were in stress mode because my one son here did all my shopping, my driving. The other three children, due to the fact one was in BC, two in Edmonton, and one with a new baby. And these children of ours, they don't have their children until they're in their 40s. So I wasn't even able to hold the last two grandchildren, and they haven't seen my mouth. I forgot to put my mask on when my 2-year-old grandson here came to the door, and he was afraid. He had never seen my mouth because they came to the door unexpectedly. So a lot of experiences are so different now, and I'm wondering if anyone has some tips that they can come forth with when you are isolated, because my medical condition is I'm ongoing isolation, but things are improving. I'm actually getting healthier because I've been so isolated. Sorry, I don't do well with too much interaction because of my low immunity. But I'm wondering if anyone has some tips. I have found humor helps.
Sorry, you found what? I missed that last bit. You found what helps?
Humor.
Humor does help. Well,
it does.
Thank you so much for sharing that story. And one of the things you mentioned is you didn't start to look for help until a crisis occurred, and that we hear that all the time as well. So I just want to talk about that for just a moment. It's hard to find help in a crisis because everybody is a little bit crazy, and your kids are stressed out, and everyone's worried, and so so important to try and build that social capital, build that network, build those relationships before the crisis occurs. Hopefully it averts the crisis, but it's much harder to do it in a crisis. So I applaud you for being successful with that, but it's not the best way to go about it, hey?
Well, one of the people that really comforted me was actually my brother. I have gone back to my immediate family, my two brothers, my cousins. But my one brother met a minister, and I had gotten away from the church, and I met her 2 days after my husband passed away. That was the first crisis because I was only 60, and it was very unexpected. And she said a phrase that I often repeat myself. You can plan for your death, but you can't plan when you die. And when you mentioned about the wills, getting everything in order, and due to another crisis with the reason why I moved in 2019, I mean, I've had more than one. I mean, when you're dealing with medical crisis, they come and go. But that's it's those little phrases, and you came up with some that I even wrote and read because I really liked them. That, yeah, we're not an island, that type of thing.
Yeah.
Because now I can't travel. I would have loved to travel with my retired.
Well, and your second question was so good too, is how can I stay connected to people when I'm isolated? Because you're isolated, we're all going back down into lockdown again. We're right back to where we were. It's been so hard. We've had a couple webinars talking about how to stay connected like that. So like Brenda said, our very first one when we first started doing webinars was just in November, and we thought, okay, people need to figure out how to be connected when they can't be connected. So there's lots of ideas there. But I would say, and you guys, the rest of the team can jump in, there are volunteer services, for example, that will call you just to have a chat. You could sign up for one of those volunteer services where you build a relationship. Yeah, you build a relationship on the phone, scheduling when your kids reach out to you, because I find that sometimes, if you got 3 or 4 kids, they all call on Sunday. Well, Sunday is a great day. You got lots of social contact on Sunday, but what about Monday through Saturday? So you might
especially the evenings.
Spread them out and
first thing in the morning when you wake up and
yeah,
you don't know what you're doing that day. You don't even know what day it is.
yeah. So spread them out and sort of schedule your kids and say, hey, this is going to be easier on you. Daughter, you're going to call me Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 9. Does that work with your schedule? Whatever it is, it works. But, try and spread out the social interaction so that it's over time a little bit. And then if you are in a care community, just try and participate in some of the stuff they offer. I know a lot of the retirement residences.
I can't even interact with my family. They're not allowed in my home.
No, well, are you in a retirement residence or are you in a home?
No, I live by myself, and I'm so
okay.
glad I did, because my kids wanted me to move into one of these senior complexes. And as a physio, I worked in a nursing home, and I am so thankful I didn't go in. They need to seriously evaluate.
Oh, I know.
There needs to be factors. Yeah,
there needs to be lots
I personally, my godsend is the fact I love the outdoors and I love gardening.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually getting stronger because I'm forced to look after my yard, because I'm not going to ask my son to shovel the snow. So what if I go out for 10 minutes and come in to warm up? It keeps me busy.
That's great. Yeah, good.
Lorraine,
I don't know, guys, do you have any other suggestions for Lorraine?
I was going to say that our webinar last month, our August webinar, did discuss a couple of options that do have online. Mostly, the biggest one was the Third Action Film Festival. And because they can't always do their shows in person, they do a lot of them online, and they need volunteers for coordinating some of that as well. So there are a lot of organizations like Third Action who actually need online volunteers, and that might be an option for you, Lorraine. They're certainly always looking for people who are able and willing to put the time in to help with these things. And I would love for you to have a connection with an organization like that. So
now, can I ask you a question? When you were saying have one child phone on this day and that day, due to my medical condition, I can only go from the time I wake up, because I have my challenging time is night. Because if I don't have a good night, I don't have a good day. And so I can't commit. And that's the big challenge when you've got medical issues. And I lost a lot of my friends in Edmonton because they were just very outgoing. We were going to do a lot and do traveling when my husband passed away, and that just went poof. So, this is where I think what's allowed me to survive. Now, here's the humor, and I don't know if it's humor. My son here got me a Roku, ROKU. And I'm not a TV addict, but due to my medical needs, sometimes I don't get further than my recliner. So I have been totally entertained with politics. But do you know what? I could not believe it. When I moved in here, I was able to go to before the pandemic, I went, because community is important to me. I went to my community, September, they have their barbecues, which a lot had to cancel. One lady and I, the member of the community, sent her junior high daughter to my house to visit. And I only had this little corner to sit, and I found another chair for her to sit on. But because I moved into my son's house, he moved into another house because they needed a bigger one. Their baby was sleeping in my closet. But anyways, it's times like that that I think back and I think, oh, that was so kind of her.
Yeah. People really are kinder than we give them credit for, really.
You know,
You just have to allow them to be.
I got my doorbell to ring, and I finally got my second vaccine because I was having diagnostic testing. So I've been quite restricted. And I came to the door, but I saw the MP's shirt, and he kept his distance. And I thought, well, I'll put my mask on so he knows to keep distance. He was there to give me a ride for the advanced polls because I had been communicating with the MP about some of the things that had been discussed, you know, on the media or YouTube and that. And he was good. And I think he realized I had something to offer. Like, I mean, I didn't give him my life situation, but I have a lot of sort of personal connections. And a lot of them related to political things. And I couldn't believe that this gentleman came to my door to ask me if I needed a ride to go to the voting.
You know what?
Advanced polls.
You know what that reminds me to say, and I forgot to say it when we were talking earlier, but I had thought about it, is accepting help when it's offered, right? So accepting help. So many people say, you know, someone will offer, the neighbor will offer, the teenager will come by, the MP will offer to pick you up, and people will say, no, I'm fine. No, I don't need any help. Just say yes, right? Accept help.
Well, I would have said yes, but I just voted that morning.
Well, not that example specifically, but don't you think, Lorraine, like
Yeah,
a lot of times
Oh,
people will say, oh
absolutely.
no, I don't want to bother you. But if people are offering to help, say yes. Yeah,
Well, I
if they
now
want
put a
to.
chair on my front porch that just has room for me because my house is smaller. But I do have another chair that I can quickly bring around so that if somebody wants to talk, or we can go in my backyard and we keep our distance. But you're so right. You've got to kind of let people know that you want to interact, but many of them are beginning to know my limitations. But I have the sweetest little 6-year-old or 7-year-old. He's called the Miracle Children. I have a tendency to call it the Stollery Hospital, but it's the Children's Hospital. He was one of the first children diagnosed with cancer in January of 2020 and had to wait for his surgery until April. And he's still under chemo, and you see the ins and outs of the house, but I've gotten to know the family and gotten to know the mother. And I won't go into all the details because it's a story that when I'm feeling down, I look out my front room window and I see him skipping to the car to go for his chemo. And I thought, oh, don't complain about that crickety knee or the aching.
Puts things in
And I just
perspective,
get
doesn't
down on
it?
the floor and I do my yoga, and by the time I get up, I'm okay.
Yeah,
But
great.
it's right. We've got to know when to ask, know when to be there. But the volunteer, I wish I could volunteer more. I wish I could go in the school for my granddaughter who just started kindergarten here. But she's now calling me. She gets to call me on her mom and dad's cell phone if she has something exciting to tell Grandma. She
Lorraine,
wants her own cell phone though.
Yeah. That's awesome. Sorry,
Yeah.
Judy, were you going to say something?
Well, I was just thinking, listening to Lorraine, maybe she would be fabulous as one of those volunteers for an organization that needs to phone someone else that would like to have some
Well,
company.
that's, is there an opportunity, because I'm new to Calgary, to get the names of those organization and numbers? Maybe if somebody could send it to me. I think you probably got my name or put it on your newsletter, and then I can follow up with that, because you can tell I am a people person.
We can tell.
And,
can tell,
my
and-
husband was such a good listener. And so to have him pass away when I was 60 was quite a challenge for me, because I was still working. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
can certainly be some things that you can do like that from home, right? And volunteer.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I enjoy my outside so much that I think I'm going to need a month to clean up my inside. Calgary's dusty. Holy Toledo. We have such the dryness, like Edmonton's parkland. We don't get all that dust. I had my windows open because it was so hot. But-
Yeah, Lorraine, we'll definitely send you some information on some services that you could volunteer at and connect with other people. So Heather, you've got that. Do we have Lorraine's email from her sign up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
We've
that
got your
would be
email
great.
and
That
we
would be
will
great,
we'll send you
because,
some ideas.
having moved, like I said, I love my older brother. Unfortunately, my other brother has just been diagnosed with cancer here in May, and he's in palliative care, and I can't even go see him.
Yeah. that's hard.
So, but we're now talking. He's beginning to settle, and, sorry, he's always been able to talk, but he's been so ill. But we're able to talk on the phone for short periods of time, but I can't travel. So, no, having that would be good. That would be good.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
try
Share
that.
that.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. I know we've lost a lot of people here because we're running over time, which is great.
sorry.
We love to have these conversations at the end. That's always one of the best parts of doing these webinars. But we will be following up with everybody with the slides from today, as well as any of the resources that we've talked about. But I know Heather can follow up with you, particularly Lorraine, and give you
I
some of the
think
information
would
that
be
you want.
nice, Heather. Just send me an email.
Yeah.
And, but like I said, I'm at the stage where I'm still outdoors. I don't do that limited TV commuter stuff, but music and humor is what really gets me through when I have my dance. But I want to compliment you, Kathy and Brenda. I thought you did an excellent job. It was heartwarming to hear the professional guidance from
Oh,
others,
thank
because
you.
I often was giving the guidance in my career.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Lorraine. It's been such a pleasure to have you join us, and everyone else who joined, thank you so much. And we do record these, and so if anybody wants to see it again or share it with someone, if you know someone you're like, you should have been on this webinar, you can just share it with them, because the more people that are able to see
Well,
this,
I've actually
the better.
given your organization to my nursing friend in Edmonton, who is a caregiver,
Yeah.
but she's had one pass away, and caregiving in the homes, sometimes you can't go in the homes now.
Mm-hmm.
And so she comes and goes, and she's where she has not much family in that. So we
Mhm.
talk to one another, but again, it's almost where I want to let go of the professional and meet new people. And it was so nice to meet you people today. I really enjoyed it.
So nice to meet you as well. Yeah. Thank you so much.
And we will keep in touch.
We will. We know how to reach you.
My son says you really shouldn't be giving out your email the way you do. And I said, you know what? What's there to lose? If I don't like it, I can do block.
Delete or block. Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
So Heather, I hope you don't get scammed or blocked or what, but just keep trying.
Should I stop recording now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a great day. Sorry to take your time.